Remember when your mom sent you to Dominion with a $5 bill and you came back with a full grocery bag? There was a time in Canada when shopping carts rolled past aisles stacked with lead-soldered soup cans, brick-hard margarine, and neon orange drink powder that practically glowed in the dark. This is 20 Canadian groceries from the 1980s that are now banned. These weren't just products on shelves, they were Saturday morning traditions, after-school snacks, and the backbone of every potluck dinner from Newfoundland to British Columbia. But almost everything in that childhood cart would be illegal to sell in Canada today. Let's dig in. The Lead-soldered soup can. Open any Canadian pantry in 1985 and you'd find them. Rows of metal soup cans. Campbell's tomato, Chef Boyardee ravioli, Habitant pea soup, big sturdy cans with a telltale ridge running vertically along the side. That ridge wasn't just decorative. It was a lead-soldered seam, the standard way of sealing food cans for decades. Every after-school snack that started with "just heat up a can of soup" involved one of these. Grilled cheese and tomato soup on a snow day. Emergency dinner at Grandma's house when nobody felt like cooking. The satisfying pop and hiss when you cracked open that pull tab. For millions of Canadian kids, that sound meant comfort food was seconds away. But here's what nobody told you at the time. Those cans were leaching lead into your food. Not a lot, but enough that Health Canada started paying attention. Lead exposure, even in small amounts, can cause developmental problems, especially in children. By the early 1980s, regulators linked dietary lead directly to these soldered cans and pushed the food industry hard to phase them out. The transition happened fast. Lead-solder disappeared from Canadian-made cans, and by 1990 it was gone from most imports too. Today, that old packaging method is effectively prohibited for food use in Canada. The cans still exist, but they're welded or glued with safe adhesives. No lead allowed. If you tried to sell food in a lead-soldered can today, Health Canada would shut you down immediately. That classic 1980s soup can, with its visible seam and metallic taste, banned. The trans-fat margarine brick. Every Canadian kitchen table in the 1980s had one, a rock-hard yellow brick of margarine sitting in a little plastic tub. You couldn't spread it. You had to scrape it. And if you left it in the fridge too long, it could probably double as a hockey puck. This wasn't regular margarine. It was loaded with partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, the main source of artificial trans fats. Back then, margarine was marketed as the healthy alternative to butter. Doctors recommended it. Nutritionists praised it. Your Nana used it in her baking because she genuinely believed it was better for your heart. It wasn't. Trans fats turned out to be one of the worst things you could put in your body. They raised bad cholesterol, lowered good cholesterol, and significantly increased the risk of heart disease and stroke. Study after study confirmed it. By the 2000s, the evidence was overwhelming. In 2018, Canada took a hard line. Partially hydrogenated oils were officially added to Health Canada's list of contaminants. That means it's now illegal to add them to any food sold in Canada, including restaurant meals and imported products. If a manufacturer wants to sell margarine here, they have to reformulate it with different fats. That 1980s margarine brick, the one that sat on every Nova Scotia to British Columbia breakfast table, it's gone. The brands are still around, but the recipe had to change. The old version, with its high trans fat content, is now banned by law. The deep fry shortening tub. Right beside that margarine brick, in cupboards across rural Canada, sat a big cardboard tub of all-purpose shortening, white, waxy, and perfect for deep frying everything from homemade donuts to fish on Friday. Crisco was the big name, but there were plenty of store brands too. Small-town families loved this stuff. You could fry up a batch of Timbit-style dough balls for the kids, make flaky pie crusts for Sunday dinner, or drop in some pickerel fresh from the lake. It was cheap, it lasted forever, and it made everything taste better. It was also packed with the same partially hydrogenated oils that made margarine so dangerous, trans fats, all the way through. And just like margarine, the 2018 ban killed it. The exact formulation that sat in your grandmother's kitchen, with its sky-high trans fat content, can no longer be legally sold or used in any commercial food product in Canada. Modern shortenings exist, but they've been completely reformulated with different oils to meet today's standards. If you still have an old tub of 1980 shortening in the back of your pantry, congratulations. You're holding a piece of banned food history, stored donuts and frozen pies, old recipe. Walk into any 1980s Canadian supermarket on a Saturday morning and the smell hits you immediately. Fresh donuts. They sat in big glass cases near the bakery section, dozens of them, for under $2. Glazed, powdered chocolate. Grab a box and you were a hero at home. Frozen pies were just as popular. Apple, cherry, pumpkin. Pop one in the oven and you had dessert for Sunday dinner. The secret to that perfect flaky crust? You guessed it. Partially hydrogenated shortening. Those old recipes are gone now, banned right along with the trans fats that made them so cheap and convenient. Bakeries and manufacturers had to completely rework their formulas after 2018. Some managed to keep the taste close, others didn't. But either way, the donuts and pies you remember from the 1980s, made with the original trans fat heavy fats, can't legally be sold in Canada anymore. The brand names survived, the recipes didn't. Cyclamate Diet Pop. Before Coke Zero, before Diet Pepsi with aspartame, there was Cyclamate. It was the original diet drink sweetener, popular in the 1960s and 70s, and its legacy still lingered in 1980s Canadian fridges and memories. For parents watching their sugar intake, Cyclamate sweetened sodas were the go-to. It was marketed as a miracle, all the sweetness, none of the calories, no sugar crash, no guilt, just pop a can and enjoy. Then the studies started coming in. Animal research linked Cyclamate to potential health risks, and regulators in both Canada and the United States started pulling back. The U.S. banned it outright in 1969. Canada took a more measured approach but still restricted it heavily. Today, Cyclamate is not a permitted food additive in Canada. You can buy it as a tabletop sweetener at the pharmacy, and it's allowed in some drugs, but you won't find it in mass-market sodas or drink mixes. If a company tried to sell Cyclamate Diet Pop in Canada today, Health Canada would block it immediately. Those early diet drinks, the ones your parents swore by? Banned. Telling and preparing this video took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the video. Saccharin sugar-free dessert mixes. Saccharin, the pink packet sweetener, had an even rockier history. In the 1970s and 80s, it was everywhere. Sugar-free puddings, gelatin desserts, drink mixes. Diabetics and dieters relied on it. At family dinners, someone would always say, "Don't worry, this one's sugar-free," and pull out a bowl of saccharin-sweetened pudding. Then came the cancer studies. Researchers found that high doses of saccharin caused bladder tumors in lab rats. The results were alarming enough that Canada delisted saccharin as a food additive in the 1970s. For decades, it was restricted to tabletop use only, available through pharmacies, but banned from general food products. If you walked into a Canadian grocery store in the 1980s looking for saccharin-sweetened dessert mixes, you wouldn't find them. The regulatory hammer had already come down. Those sugar-free pudding boxes your diabetic uncle used to eat? Gone, thanks to the ban that started decades earlier. The Fortified American cereal box. Canadian kids in the 1980s saw the commercials on American TV channels. Cookie Crisp, the cereal that looked like actual chocolate chip cookies. It seemed like magic. But if you went looking for it in a Canadian grocery store, you'd come up empty. Why? Because the American version was too fortified for Canadian rules. Health Canada tightly controls which vitamins and minerals can be added to breakfast cereals. The goal is to prevent overfortification, especially in products marketed to kids. Vitamin C, for instance, isn't on Canada's approved list for cereal fortification. The U.S. version of Cookie Crisp, loaded with extra vitamin C and other nutrients, didn't meet Canadian standards. It couldn't be sold here in that exact formulation. The brand eventually made it to Canada, but only after reformulating to match local rules. That American cereal box you saw on TV, the one that seemed so much cooler than anything in Canadian stores, effectively banned. Overfortified kids' drinks. The same fortification rules hit kids' drinks even harder. In the 1980s, bright orange vitamin drinks were everywhere in the States. Sugary beverages packed with added vitamins, marketed as healthy options for active kids. Canadians saw them at cross-border shopping trips and wondered why they couldn't get them at home. The answer was simple: Canada's tight restrictions on nutrient fortification in beverages. Products that didn't match the permitted vitamin and mineral patterns couldn't be sold. Many of those U.S. vitamin drinks had to change their formulas completely to enter the Canadian market. Some never made it at all. If you remember begging your parents for those neon-colored drinks you saw in American ads, now you know why they said no. Not because they were being mean, because those drinks were effectively banned in Canada. Citrus-dyed Florida oranges. Winter in Canada meant one thing: imported oranges. Crates of bright, impossibly orange Florida oranges sitting on kitchen counters in January, like little suns. They were a treat, a burst of color and vitamin C in the middle of a cold, gray season. But those oranges weren't naturally that bright. Many of them were treated with citrus red No. 2, a dye applied to the peel to make them more visually appealing. Greener oranges, even if perfectly ripe inside, didn't sell as well. So packers dyed them. Canada wasn't having it. Citrus red No. 2, along with orange bee, is banned in Canadian food. It's not on the permitted list of food colors, which means oranges treated with these dyes can't be sold here under current regulations. Those glowing Florida oranges from the 1980s? If they were dyed with banned colorants, they'd be stopped at the border today. Hyper neon cheese powder, mac, and cheese. Boxed macaroni and cheese. The university student's salvation, the babysitter's go-to, the after-hockey practice snack that defined a generation. Tear open the box, boil the noodles, dump in that packet of radioactive orange cheese powder, and you had dinner in 10 minutes. That cheese powder was almost unnaturally bright. It had to be because it wasn't real cheese. It was a blend of milk solids, salt, and synthetic dyes designed to create the most appealing color possible. Some of those dyes, like orange bee, are no longer permitted in Canadian food. The color additive list has been overhauled multiple times, and certain older colorants have been removed. Manufacturers had to reformulate their cheese powder to stay compliant. The modern version still looks orange, but it's not the same glowing, almost toxic shade you remember from the 1980s. The old formulation, with its now banned dyes, couldn't pass today's regulations. That childhood mac and cheese, the one with the cheese smell you could recognize from 3 rooms away, banned at least in its original form. Pink slime ground beef tubes. Ground beef in the 1980s came in long, plastic-wrapped tubes called chub packs. They were cheap, convenient, and perfect for feeding a big family. Meatloaf night, spaghetti sauce, chili for everyone. You could grab 2 or 3 tubes and have dinners covered for the week. But the cheapest ground beef wasn't always what it seemed. In the 1990s and 2000s, a product called lean, finely textured beef, better known as pink slime, became standard in the U.S. meat industry. It was made from beef trimmings treated with ammonium hydroxide to kill bacteria, then added to ground beef to boost volume and lower cost. Canada said no. Ammonia-treated beef is not permitted here. Meat processed that way cannot be sold in Canadian grocery stores, even though it's widely used in the United States. If you bought cheap ground beef tubes in the 1980s and 90s, you probably weren't getting pink slime because Canadian rules were already stricter. But if any company tried to import or sell ammonia-treated ground beef today, it would be immediately banned. Fat-free Olestra chips. In the 1990s, Frito-Lay launched Wow Chips, made with Olestra, a no-calorie fat substitute that promised guilt-free snacking. All the taste, none of the fat. It sounded like a miracle. Canadian shoppers saw the ads on American TV and heard stories from cross-border trips. People brought back bags of Wow Chips like they were smuggling gold. Then the side effects started making headlines. Olestra caused intense digestive issues, cramping, diarrhea, and something charmingly called anal leakage. The product carried a warning label in the US, but that didn't stop the complaints. Canada never approved Olestra for use in food. It's banned here, along with most of Europe, over health and safety concerns. No Canadian manufacturer can use it, and you can't legally import Olestra-containing snacks for resale. Those fat-free chips Canadians tried to sneak across the border? Banned in Canada from day one. Potassium bromate bread mixes. Potassium bromate was a baker's secret weapon. Added to bread dough, it strengthened gluten and made loaves rise higher and fluffier. Church basement hot dog buns, cheap bakery pizza, bulk bake loaves from discount grocery chains. Bromate was everywhere. It was also a potential carcinogen. Studies linked it to cancer in lab animals, and regulators around the world started pulling back. The European Union banned it, so did Canada. Today, potassium bromate is prohibited in Canadian food. Bakeries and manufacturers had to find alternatives, and most did. But the old-style bromate bread, the kind with that particular texture and rise, is gone. If you tried to sell bromate-treated bread in Canada today, you'd be breaking the law. RBST treated milk and yogurt. In the 1990s, American dairy farmers widely adopted RBST, a recombinant bovine growth hormone designed to increase milk production. U.S. grocery stores were flooded with cheap milk from hormone-treated cows. Canadians traveling south noticed the price difference. A gallon of milk in the States cost half what it did at home. Rumors spread about hormone milk and what it might do to you. Canada reviewed RBST carefully and refused to approve it. The concerns weren't about human health, but animal welfare. The hormone caused health problems in cows, including increased rates of mastitis. Health Canada decided the risks outweighed the benefits and banned its use, sale, and import. To this day, Canadian milk is RBST-free by law. It's one of the things Canadian dairy farmers advertise proudly. That cheap American milk from the 1990s, the stuff that made Canadians wonder why their own milk cost so much. Banned in Canada, then and now. Old recipe frozen fries and onion rings. Friday night in small-town Canada meant one thing: frozen fries and onion rings straight from the oven. Big bags from the grocery store, already par-fried and ready to crisp up at home. They were cheap, easy, and delicious. The secret to their crispiness? Partially hydrogenated oils. The same trans fats that made margarine and a shortening so dangerous were used to pre-fry these frozen foods. After the 2018 ban, manufacturers had to reformulate everything. Modern frozen fries and onion rings use different oils. And while some brands manage to keep the taste close, it's not quite the same. The original 1980s versions, fried in trans-fat heavy oils, are now illegal to produce or sell in Canada. Candy and sausages with orange bee-style dyes. Some of the most vivid colors in 1980s grocery stores came from dyes that no longer exist. Orange bee, once used to color sausage casings in the United States, was later abandoned due to safety concerns. Canada prohibits it and similar high-risk dyes from the food supply. If you remember bright orange hot dogs at community barbecues or neon-colored candies that looked like they belonged in a science lab, those dyes are likely gone. The products might still be on shelves, but the colors have been toned down, reformulated with safer, approved dyes. Heavy metal Ayurvedic tonics. For many Indo-Canadian families in the 1980s and 90s, Chyawanprash was a staple. This dark, jam-like herbal tonic sat on kitchen shelves alongside breakfast spreads. Kids got a spoonful before school for immunity. It was traditional, trusted, and part of daily life. Then, in 2005, Health Canada tested several Chyawanprash products and found dangerous levels of lead and mercury. The contamination was serious enough to trigger a nationwide ban on the sale of certain Ayurvedic products. Families who had relied on Chyawanprash for generations were shocked. The jars disappeared from store shelves overnight. Today, only tested, certified versions of Chyawanprash can be sold in Canada, and the old, unregulated products are permanently banned. The Halloween kiss, candy scare. Halloween kisses, those old-fashioned molasses. Taffy candies wrapped in orange and black wax paper. Generations of Canadian kids found them in their trick-or-treat bags, and opinions were split. Some loved them, most didn't. But they were Halloween. In the 2000s, several batches were recalled due to metal contamination. The recalls were serious enough that certain versions of Halloween kisses were pulled from sale permanently. While the brand still exists in some form, the original version many Canadians remember has effectively disappeared. The recall became a permanent ban for that specific product line, anything with lead in the packaging. Beyond soup cans, lead showed up in all kinds of packaging: imported juices in lead-soldered tins, specialty foods in lead-glazed containers, holiday gift tins with lead-based seals. In the 1980s, these were common, even desirable. Fancy imported goods in decorative tins were a big deal at Christmas and special occasions. Canada's tightened regulations on lead have choked off these sources. Lead in food packaging is now heavily controlled. Soldered cans, lead-glazed ceramics, and similar packaging methods are no longer acceptable for food use. If you still have an old holiday tin from the 1980s, don't store food in it. The packaging itself might be contaminated. The Everything Cart, 1980s version now, let's bring it all together. Picture a fully loaded 1985 grocery cart, lead-soldered soup cans, brick margarine, trans fat donuts, neon drink mix, Cyclamate diet pop, cheap ground beef, dyed oranges, hyper orange mac and cheese. This wasn't unusual. This was what a normal Canadian family bought on a Saturday afternoon. Nothing weird, nothing luxury, just regular groceries. Now run that cart through a modern inspection. Highlight every banned additive, every prohibited packaging method, every illegal ingredient in red. By the end, almost every major item gets flagged. Lead solder, banned. Trans fats, banned. Cyclamate, banned. Certain dyes, banned. Ammonia-treated beef, banned. The 1985 grocery cart wouldn't make it past today's regulations. Almost nothing would. Thanks for watching. If this trip down the grocery aisle brought back memories, smash that like button and subscribe for more Canadian nostalgia. Drop a comment telling us which banned food you miss most, or which one you're glad is gone. Want more forgotten brands, recalled treats, and I can't believe we ate that moments? Hit the bell so you never miss an upload.